All right, so we're going to start with lesson 6.2, and it's factor trinomials. All right. And we have three methods to factor trinomials. The first one that we're going to study is the sum and product. All right. So we know we had to factor by grouping because we had what? 4 terms that we split in what? In 2 groups. That's what we did. Of 2 terms each one. Now we're being given a trinomial, meaning 3 terms. And we're going to be asked to factor that. So most trinomials that we will be asked to factor will have a specific form. And they all will look like ax plus bx plus c. And this is what we call the quadratics. Let me write this down. The quadratics are functions in the form. So they will look like this one, ax squared plus bx plus c. And this is the quadratic equation. Now, where a is not equal to 0, we have to have the term of x squared. We must have the term x squared, or the x squared term, all right? And if you guys remember the family of functions, you guys recognize the family of functions that quadratics belong to? They belong to the family square. Let me just write this down here. I'm just gonna write down the question. Recognize the family of functions that quadratics belong to. They belong to the square family. The square family. Okay, and which is this one, ax minus h and it's going to be like this. That's the, and then this one is the quadratic form. The quadratic form a parabola. When we were combining like terms in the last section, it did not matter what order the terms were written in, but in the quadratics, it does. In the quadratics, you're gonna start with the square of the variable. The next one The next term is the variable to the power of 1, followed by a constant. So now it does matter the order that we write the terms. With quadratics, it matters. We're going to start with the square of the variable. The next one is going to be the term with the variable. And the last one is going to be with the power of 1, power to 1. And the last one is going to be a constant. So n so the order, the terms were written, it does matter in the quadratics. So we're going to have first the square of the variable, meaning second, we're going to have the term with the variable to the power of 1. And the last one is going to be the constant. Okay? So when we factor quadratics, we need to pay attention to the value of a, meaning right here. When there is no coefficient, excuse me, no coefficient of the square term, meaning a is equal to 1, that's when we will be using the sum and the product method. So, do it in a different page. So it says that to factor quadratics, we need to pay attention to the value of a. Okay? When there is no coefficient, no, of the square term, meaning I'm talking about the a. So a is going to be equal to 1. Then we will be factoring using the sum and the product. Then, there we go. We will be using that method. Now, let me give you the first example. It says factor x squared plus 9x plus 18. That's what it's given. All right, and we know quadratic form. A is equal to what? To 1. B is what? 9. And C is 18. So the first step that we're going to do, so step 1, we're going to find two numbers. So we're going to find two numbers that have a sum of B and a product of C. Okay, so let's do it. So we need two numbers. Oops. Then when we add them, we get 9. And two numbers, then when I multiply them, I get 18. Those two numbers are going to be what? 6. Both are going to be positive, right? Positive 6 plus 3 will be 9. And if I multiply 6 times 3, will be 18. We have to use the same two numbers for both the sum and the product. Okay, so notice we must use the same two numbers for both the sum and the product. All right, now let's do step 2. That one, we're going to take the two numbers found in step 1 and we're going to write them in the form. So we're going to take, hold on. Yeah. So we're going to take the two numbers we're going to take them and we're going to write them in the form this way. So it's going to be x plus the first number. And the other one is going to be x plus the second number. So it's going to be, what was our first number? That was 6. And our second number was 3. There we go. Or it's exactly the same if we do this. Remember, multiplication is commutative. So notice that if I multiplied you gotta notice that if I add 3 plus 3 times 6 is 18. So the order of the numbers does not matter. All right. Now, let me do another exercise. This one is, it says, factor. This one we got a factor x squared minus 11x plus 24. So first we know that a is equal to 1, right? A is equal to 1, b is negative 11, and c is 24. So I gotta find two numbers. Then when I add them, I get what? Negative 11. And when I multiply those two numbers, I get 24. So here is the sum, and here is the product. That will be what? 8 times 3 is 8 times 3 is 24, and 8 plus 3 is 11, but we need a negative. Okay, so both of them are negative, I get negative 11. If both of them are negative, I get positive 24. So my trinomial, when I factor it, one number is going to be what? Negative 8, and the other one is going to be negative 3. If we multiply, we get this. So here's another example. It says factor x squared plus 3x minus 54. So we know a is equal to 1, b is equal to 3, and c is equal to negative 54. So I need two numbers, then when I add them, I get what? I get 3. And two numbers, then when I multiply them, I get negative 54. So this one is going to be the sum, and this one is going to be the product. What gave you 54? 6 and 9. If I have the negative 6 plus 9, I get positive 3. If I have negative 6 times 9, I get negative 54. So my trinomial, I can factor it as x, what? Minus 6, and x plus 9. Now I have one more that we could do here. It's a little bit, gotta do another step before. Let's factor 3x to the third power minus 9x to the second minus 30x. So this doesn't look exactly like a quadratic, right? So what we need to do is to factor out the greatest common factor first. So we're gonna try to factor out the greatest common factor first. Let's do that. All right, so we know this is our trinomial. Be 3x, 3 and x. So what do I have left on the first one? X squared. On the second one, 3x. And on the last one, 10. So what I have now is x squared minus 3x minus 10 to factor. All right? And I know A is 1, B is negative 3, and C is negative 10. So I gotta find two numbers that when I add them, I get negative 3. And when I multiply them, I get negative 10. Okay? And that will be 5 and 2. If I multiply, let's do it here, 5 and 2. To get a negative 3, the 5 needs to be negative. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. Negative 5 times 2 is what? Negative 10. All right, so then my answer, don't forget the greatest common factor. My answer is going to be x minus 3x times x minus 5 and x plus 2. So sometimes we might need to factor the greatest common factor first. Now, the second method, we could do it the AC method or we could do the box method. I do the box, but I will show you both of them, okay? So the second one, we have the AC method and the box method. I like the box more. So I will show you one exercise with this one, but all of the exercises are going to be done the box method. All right. Let's do it. So now we know what to do when it's 1, right? When the the A is equal to 1. So what about when it's not equal to 1? So we're going to use AC or the box method. All right. So we're using this method when the A is not 1. That's when we're using it. So let's do the first one. We are going to be to the AC method first. So we're going to factor 4x squared plus 5x minus 6. All right, where A is equal to 4, B is equal to 5, and C is equal to 6. So the first step that we're going to take here, step 1, we're going to multiply A times C. So A is 4 and C is negative 6. So we get negative 24. All right. The second is step 2. We find two numbers, okay, whose sum is B. So we need to find two numbers sum is B. It's a lot like the sum and product method we just learned, okay? And whose product is what we just multiplied, A times C. So we have to find two numbers whose sum is B. 24. So let's do the sum. needs to be equal to what? To B. This is B. And this is the sum. And the product of two numbers, and they need to be equal to A times C, which is negative 24. In this case, it's going to be 8 and 3. Now let's work the signs. In order for this one to be positive, the 3 have to be negative. When we multiplied, signs are different. My answer is going to be negative. Right now, we're going to be doing something different. Now we will introduce factoring by grouping right here. So now we will do something a little different. We will introduce factoring by grouping. And you guys remember we need to have 4 terms. So here's how we're gonna create them. Here's the next step, step number 3. We're going to rewrite the B term using the numbers from step 2. So we're gonna rewrite the term B. So it says rewrite the B term using the numbers from step 2. This is how we're gonna create the 4 terms. So we're gonna do 4x squared plus 5x plus 6. This is what we have, right? So this is gonna be 2. So we're gonna have 4x squared plus, what do we have? 8x minus 3x plus 6. So this one, we're gonna rewrite it in terms, 2 terms. And notice that 8 plus negative 3 is what? 5. And 8x plus negative 3 is what? 5x. Okay, and this is 5x. Now, this is the step 3. So we have a step 1, a step 2. Here's a step 3. And now let's do step 4. What do we need to do? We're gonna factor by grouping, right? Because we have how many? 4 terms, don't forget that. So we have 4x squared plus 8x, right here, from here I'm writing it down, minus 3x plus 6. So if I do this by grouping, greatest common factor is going to be 4x plus 2, right? and this is going to be 3. If I do negative here, this is going to be negative 3 times x, negative 3x. Okay. Hold on. 4x. But if I multiply negative 3, negative 3 times 2 is going to give me a negative 6. Hold on. This is 8x minus 3, right? Because let me go back. Something doesn't sound right here to me. So we divided the b, write the b term using the numbers from the step 2, which is what? We multiplied the AC, A and the C. That's how we got the negative 24. Once we have that, we have to find two numbers whose sum is B, which is 5, and whose product is what? Negative 24. So if I have 8 minus 3 is 5 positive, and 8 times 3 is going to give me negative 24. It says for the step 3, we're going to rewrite this term using two numbers, the two numbers that I got from step 2, which is what? 8x and the other one is going to be negative 3x. Now, if I get the greatest common factor is 4x, this is going to be x plus 2. So if I have the negative here, this is going to be negative 3 times x. That's going to be negative 3x. And if I multiply the negative 3 times 2, it's going to be negative 6. Something doesn't work, it's not working here. Okay? There is something wrong here, but I do not know. Okay. If I multiply this one times this one, it has to give me the positive 6, and it's not going to give me positive 6. Okay, let's do this. Let me look into this. Let me write down that this needs to be revised. All right. So let me continue with the next one, and when I stop the recording, let me have more time and I'll go over that just to see what is wrong there. Now, let's do, because we didn't finish this one, we were about to do that and we didn't finish. Oh, you know what? Let's do this one using the box method. Okay, so we're gonna do, there we go. And the exercise was factor 4x squared plus 5x minus 6. Okay, so what we need to do when we're doing the box method, we just need to build a box, just a square. That's what we need to do there. And we are going to let me do something here that I need to. All right, so here's my box. Okay, so we are going to the first term, we're gonna write it here. And the second one, the last term is going to go on this bottom right side, okay? Now, we need two terms. Hold on. When I multiply these two numbers, 4 times 6 is what? Negative 24x squared. So we need two numbers that when we multiply, we get negative 24x squared. And two numbers that when we add them, we get what? 5x. You know what? I just realized what the mistake is. Ah, got it. I got it. Let's go back here. This is negative 6. Let's go back to the AC method. Okay? And look what I did here. I wrote down positive. So this is negative. In the original equation is negative. Okay? All of this is negative. So that's why I was thinking, no, it doesn't make any sense. And right here, this is negative. So of course, when I multiply negative 3 times positive 2, I get negative 6. So we don't need to, we just revise it. Right now, this is what we have. So my 2 greatest common factor is going to be what? X plus 2. And what do I have left on the first term? 4x. And on the second one, 3. And we just factored the trinomial. So what happened there was that the initial was trinomial was negative 6. And for some reason, I myself changed it to plus 6. That's why it wasn't making any sense at the end. All right. Now, let's do the same exercise with the box method. So I need two numbers that when I multiply, I get negative 24. And when I add them, I get 5. All right, so what are the factors of 24? So it's 1 times 24, right? 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Don't have too many. What two numbers will give me a 5? These two, because 2 and 12 x and what? An 8x. But it needs to be positive. When I subtracted two numbers, I need to get a positive 5x. So the 3 is going to have to be negative, right? When I multiplied 8x times negative 3x, I get the negative 24. Now, we are going to get the greatest common factor from the columns and from the rows. All right, so let's get it from this column. What will be my greatest common factor? Will be 4x. And from this column, it's going to be 3. All right, now let's do it from this row. What will be? It's going to be x. And between 8x and 6 is going to be 2. Now, what about the signs? Let's see. If I have, gosh, I don't see my red pen anymore. Okay. How do we do that? All right. So we know that if we multiply x times 4x, it's giving me 4x squared, right? Now, if I multiplied 4x times 2, it gives me 8x. All right, so it seems like we're going to have a plus here. Now, let's do this other side. If I multiply 3 times x, right here to get this one, what do I get? 3 times x, I get negative 3x. So it needs to be negative. If I multiply negative 3 times 2, I get negative 6. Let me rewrite it that way you guys see what I just did. We had the 4x, the 3, the x, and the 2. So what I did first was the x times the 4x, right? That's how I got this number. It's x times 4x, 4x squared. 4x times 2, it gives me the 8x. Now, 3 times x, it needs to be 3x. So this one needs to be negative. If I multiply this negative 3 times 2, it needs to give me a negative 6, and it's perfect. So this is positive, x plus 2, and 4x minus 3. And we just factor this trinomial. And I'll do some more, okay? And I can also post a video that I really like in YouTube. So all these steps that we did on this one, we just do everything in one box. And you're done. Now, let's do let me do a different one. We have an activity. It's 6.2. I will write it down here that way you guys know. Okay, and it's factoring trinomials. Okay, that's what I'm getting the exercises from. So let's do this one. This is the sum and the product. Why? Because the A is 1. The coefficient of the first term is 1, so I can use that one, that method so far. So it was going to be what? I need two numbers, and when I multiply it, I get what? 100. And when I add them, I get 48. 100. Okay. 1 times 100. 2 times what? 2 times 50 will give me 48, will give me 100. And 2 and 50, I could get the 48 from here. So I know it's going to be 2 and 50. It needs to be, when I multiply them, I forgot, oh my goodness. Look at here, 48. So it needs to be negative. So the 50 is the one that is going to be negative. Negative 50 plus 2 is negative 48. And if I multiply positive 2 times negative 50, will give me a negative 100. Now, let's do, this is number 4 from that activity. It's a handout, okay? It has a number greater than 1 here. So we're going to use the box method. How do we do it? We're just going to do a box here. Okay, the first number is going to go right here, and the last one is going to go right here on the bottom. So we need two numbers, and when we multiply, we get negative 6 squared. And when we add them, we get what? Negative 5x. All right, so let's do 6. 1 times 6, 2 times 3 will give me a 6, right? Right here, we got it right there. We need a number that when we multiply it, we get negative 6. But when we add them, we get negative 1, negative 5. We can't do the 2 and 3 because if we have them both negative, we're going to get a positive 6. We're going to have to use this one. And I'll show you why. So then 1 is going to be 1x. I'm just going to write it down there as the one, that way we know. If I multiply this, if I add them, sorry, I need to get negative 5x. So the 6x is the one that it needs to be negative. If I multiply them, I get negative 6x squared. So now, this row, what do we have in common? Greatest common factor, 3x. And from here, if you don't see anything, we write down the 1. And from here, what do we have this column? a 3. And from this one, we have an x and a 3. Now, let's talk about the signs. When we multiply 3x times x, we need a positive here. We're fine. When we multiply 1 times x, we need to get x. So it seems like this one is going to be positive. Now, if I multiply the 3 times 1, you know what? This is not 3. This got to be 2. So 2 times 1 is not going to give me negative. Times 3x is negative 6x. So I just got my trinomial factor. If I multiply these two binomials, I should get that trinomial. Okay. Let me do one more, get a few more from there. We have, this is number 5. 5x squared minus 14x minus 3. Again, the box, because we have a coefficient greater than 1. So the first term is going to go on the upper left corner. On the right hand side, the bottom is going to go the last number. So we need 5 times negative 3 is going to be negative 15x squared. And when I add, it needs to be negative 14x. Okay, so 15. To get 14 is going to be 15 times 1. All right? So again, if I add these two numbers, in order to get a negative 14, the negative 15 needs to be negative 15. When I multiply it, I get negative 15x squared. Now, let's factor here. This is going to be 5x. And this one is going to be 1. Let's factor the column. Is going to be x. And this one is going to be 3. Now, if I multiply x times 5x, I get positive. 1 times x, I get x. So that tells me that this is going to be remain positive. Now, if I multiply this 3 times the 1, it's not giving me the negative 3. So this one needs to be negative. If I multiply negative 3 times positive 5x, that's how I get the negative 15x. So my two terms are going to be x plus 1 and x minus 3. Okay? There are many exercises, all right? For example, another one, 12x squared minus 17x plus 6. Okay, we are going to use the box. So the box is going to be the first term is going to go on the left side, upper corner, and lower corner. So when I multiply, oops, what do I get? 6 times 12 is 72x squared. And when I add, I get the middle term, negative 17x. The two numbers that are going to go here are going to be 8 and 9. When I multiply 8x times 9x will give me 72. But I need to add them and I need to get negative 17x. So they both are going to be negative. I add them, negative 17. Multiply them, I get a positive answer. Now, let's do the greatest common factor. Right here is going to be 4x. And in this one is just going to be the number 3. Let's do the signs. So let's start like we were doing. 3x times 4x. That's 12x squared. 4x times 2. If I do that, I'm not getting the negative 8. So this one has to be negative. Negative 2 times 4x is negative 8x. Now, this one. If I multiply 3 times negative 2, it's not going to give me a positive 6. So this has to be negative. Negative 3 times negative 2 will give me a positive 6. Negative 3 times 3x would be negative 9x. So my answer here is going to be 3x minus 2 times 4x minus 3. Now let's go and do the last method that we need to add there, which is the substitution method, right? I might go back and do another one here. So let's do the substitution. So this is number 3, and we call substitution method. That's the last one. And this one, let me just write it down. It says factor 3x plus 1 squared minus 7x plus 1. So at first glance, this does not look like a quadratic at all. So it will look like a little closer. If we look a little closer, we see that it follows the general quadratic form. So at first glance, this one does not look like a quadratic, right? But if we look closer, it follows the general quadratic form. And let me show you where. A is something squared plus B plus C. You guys see that? It does. So instead of writing x plus 1, we could write a letter instead of that. So instead of writing x plus 1, we would write any letter. We could use the u. Okay? So we will substitute u for x plus 1. U for x plus 1. So we're going to rewrite the problem with the substitution. So it's going to look like this. We were given x 3 times x plus 1 squared minus 7x plus 1 minus 20. So we're going to say that u is the same as x substituted for x plus 1. So it's going to be 3u squared minus 7u minus 20. U is like a variable. It could be x, y, any, like we're using now. So now what are we doing? Using the box method. So now we use the box method to solve it. Let's do that. So what do we have? We have 3u squared and negative 20. So we need, when we multiply 3 times 20, it's going to be negative 16u squared. And we add, it's going to be negative 7u. All right? So we need two numbers that when we multiply it, we get negative 16. And when we add them, we get negative 7. Okay? And those two numbers are going to be 12u and 5u. When I multiplied, when I add them, what do I need in order for them to be negative? Negative 7. This needs to be negative. Negative 12u plus 5u give me the negative 7u. And if I multiply negative 12u times 5u, give me the negative 16. Now, let's do this. This factor here is going to be u. Factor here will be a 4, right? And factor here will be a 3u. And factor here will be a 5. Now, factor here would be a u. Factor here will be a 4. Here will be a 3 and 5. Now, if I multiply this u times 3u, I get 3u squared. If I multiply the 4 times 3u, this is going to have to be negative. Now, the 5, if I multiply 5 times negative 4, I get negative 20. If I multiply 5 times u, I get 5u. So what I just got was u minus 4 times 3u plus 5. Okay? But we're not done. Because notice that it's written in what? In terms of u. And our given problem was in terms of what? X. So we gotta replace the u. So let's do that. So notice, let me write that down here. Notice that u minus 4 and 3u plus 5 is written in terms of u. Notice that. So our problem was given in terms of x. So we're gonna replace the u. So this is what we have. 3x plus 1 squared minus 7x plus 1 minus 20. All right, and we said that this was equal to what? U minus 4, 3u plus 5. And if you guys remember, we said u, it was going to be equal to x plus 1. So we're going to do that. U, we said was x plus 1. And 3 times x plus 1 plus 5. So what do we have? We have what do we get here? We get x plus 1 minus 4, right? And we get here 3x plus 3 plus 5. So it's going to be x minus 3 and 3x plus 8. All right? And this is one way to do it. If you do not like to substitute the substitution, you can multiply it out and then factor. And then you will get the same answer. Okay? Let me write that down. Substitution, you can multiply it out and then factor. I can assure you that you will be getting the same answer. All right? Now, let me do one more of these ones, the substitution. Yes. This one is from your activity, from the 6.2 activity 1. All right? And it's number 10. This one says x minus 3 minus 8. All right? So I'm going to substitute what? I'm going to say that a is equal to x minus 3. So it's going to be a squared minus 2a minus 8. So I'm just going to use the sum and the product. Two numbers, and when I multiply it, I get 8. That's going to be 4 and 2, right? When I add them, I get -2. So this is going to have to be negative, and this is positive. There we go. I got my answer. But what happened? I need to replace that. So A is going to be equal to x minus 3. And A plus 2. Now this is going to be x minus 3 minus 4 and x minus 3 plus 2. So this is going to be x minus 7 and x minus 1. And that's going to be our answer. Okay. That's all I have for 6.